Hello friends, welcome to the Point. So in this session, let's discuss about Sino-India relationship part 9. So in this particular session, we'll be discussing about the NSG membership issue between India and China. So what is NSG? That is the Nuclear Suppliers Group. The NSG, it is a group of nuclear supplier countries that seek to contribute to non-proliferation of nuclear weapons through the implementation of two sets of guidelines for nuclear exports and nuclear related exports. The Nuclear Suppliers Group guidelines, it also contain the so-called non-proliferation principle, which is adopted in the year 1994, whereby a supplier, notwithstanding other provisions in the NSG guidelines, and it authorizes a transfer only when satisfied that the transfer would not contribute to the proliferation of nuclear weapons. And this non-proliferation principle, it seeks to cover the rare but very important cases where adherence to non-proliferation treaty or to a nuclear weapon free zone treaty, which may not by itself be a guarantee that a state will consistently share the objectives of the treaty or that it will remain in compliance with its treaty obligations. So this Nuclear Suppliers Group, NSG, it was established in the wake of India's Pokhran test in the year 1974. So it is a 48-member grouping that was formed at that time. So it was formed with the aim of ensuring non-proliferation of nuclear weapons and nuclear technology. So the NSG, it first met in November 1975 in London, and it is thus popularly referred to as London Club. So the 48 members of NSG include 5 nuclear weapon states like US, UK, France, China and Russia. The other 43 are signatories to Nuclear Proliferation Treaty, and India is not a signatory of Non-Proliferation Treaty, which it calls a discriminatory. So the membership of Non-Proliferation Treaty, it is only a guideline, a consideration and not a mandatory requirement while deciding on a country's application. So India is keen to be a member of NSG and other export control regimes such as the Wassenaar Agreement and Australia Group, as it seeks to significantly expand its nuclear power generation and also enter the export market in coming years. So from India's point of view, NSG was formed to deny India's access to sophisticated technology. Next is, it was a civil nuclear deal with US, so which concluded in the year 2008, and that paved the way for India's application as a member of NSG. So India's commitment to separate its civilian and military nuclear programs and its impeccable non-proliferation record, along with its ratification of an additional protocol with the International Atomic Energy Agency, add to India's credentials for NSG membership. India also changed its export law to line up with NSG, MTCR, Wassenaar Agreement and Australia Group, which are the 4 key export control regimes. So India's track record is observing the provisions of Non-Proliferation Treaty and Nuclear Suppliers Group while not being a member of either body is impeccable here. So if NSG was able to grant a waiver to India in the year 2008, on the basis of its past performance, it should have no objection to admitting it as a member this time. And since all decisions of NSG are taken by consensus, any country, whether it may be a small country or a big country, it can stand in a way of consensus. So if India gets the membership of NSG, so what are its benefits? So if India gets the membership of NSG, then it gets access to technology for a range of uses, from medicine to building nuclear power plants for India from the NSG. So which is essentially a traders cartel. And India has its own indigenously developed technology, but to get its hand on state of art technology, countries within the NSG possesses, it has to become part of that group. So with India committed to reducing dependence on fossil fuels and ensuring that 40% of its energy is sourced from renewable and clean sources, there is a pressing need to scale up nuclear power production, and this can only happen if India gains access to NSG. Even if India today can buy power plants from the global markets, thanks to one-time NSG waiver in 2008, still being out of the elite NSG group, it has meant that many latest technologies are still out of its reach, as it is the NSG members that have the latest and most efficient technology. And with the access to the latest technology, India can commercialize the production of nuclear power equipment, and this in turn it will boost the innovation and high-tech manufacturing in India, and it can be leveraged for economic and strategic benefits. And also having the ability to offer its own nuclear power plants to the world means spawning of an entire nuclear industry and related technology development. This could give a Make in India program a big boost. So for example, we can say that India has signed a civil nuclear energy cooperation pact with Sri Lanka. So, and currently this entails the training people in peaceful uses of nuclear energy, including the use of radioisotopes, nuclear safety, nuclear security, radioactive waste management, and nuclear and radiological disaster mitigation. So for this, if India gets access to advanced nuclear technologies, and it can start building updated versions of its own fast breeder reactor, and it can sell it to the countries such as Sri Lanka or Bangladesh. And as of now, Bangladesh is currently looking at buying Russian reactors for power generation. And the membership of NSG will provide a greater certainty and legal foundation to India's nuclear regime. And this will also provide greater confidence to countries who invest billions of dollars for setting up ambitious nuclear power projects in India. And moreover, as India's international, political, economic, military and strategic profile and clout increases, India would like to move into the category of international nuclear commerce rule creating nations. International nuclear commerce rule creating nations, rather than staying in the ranks of rule othering nations. So for this, it is essential that India should get its due recognition and it should become a member of NSG. And it is to be remembered that after India's waiver in 2008, NSG rules in 2011, it prohibited the sale of enrichment and reprocessing technology to the countries which has not signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty. So what are the objections of China's for India to become a member of NSG? So India, it had launched hectic diplomatic activity to explain its position and overcome opposition of few countries, and it has also reached out to China to explain that its interest in NSG membership is not guided by any type of political or strategic considerations, but only to facilitate expansion of its clean and green nuclear energy program. China and at least 7 other countries, it blocked consensus over India's entry in NSG at the Allied Group's plenary in Seoul in June 23rd, 26, 2016, and China remained resolutely opposed to India's entry in NSG. And it said that India, in any case, it is not eligible to become a member of NSG as it is not a member of Non-Proliferation Treaty. So, which is important for India to become a member of NSG. So, this was the reason stated by China, and it blocked the entry of India to become a member of NSG. So, China, it has also averred that for non-proliferation treaty members, some definite criteria should be evolved rather than granting country-specific waivers. And it also warned if exceptions are allowed here or there on the question of non-proliferation treaty, the international non-proliferation regime will collapse altogether. And China, it has also maintained that there are several countries which have reservations about India's membership of NSG. And further, if only India were to be admitted, it would disturb the nuclear arms balance in South Asia, as India will engage in massive nuclear weaponization program. And China has said in no uncertain terms that India's membership will jeopardize China's national interest and touch a raw nerve in Pakistan. So at other times, Beijing stated that Pakistan has similar credentials to join the nuclear supplies group, and China's diplomats insist NSG entry to be norm-based. So we can say that whatever the rules govern Indian entry should apply to other countries too. And the norm-based entry, it would presumably help Pakistan gain entry to NSG. So that is what China stated indirectly, as there are certain to resist because of the country's record as a proliferator of nuclear weapons technology. So what are the arguments against China's stand? So most of the questions raised by China against India's membership, they have a very little validity. For example, a question was asked like, members of the non-proliferation treaty is not a condition for becoming a member of NSG. So this is only a guiding principle to which consideration needs to be given. And the Pakistan credentials for NSG membership are highly flawed and inadequate. And over the last 8 years, India has separated its reactors which are under IAEA safeguards and those which are not. And Pakistan, it has not undertaken any such exercises. And India's contention is that its nuclear technologies, they are indigenously developed and it has a clean non-proliferation record, unlike Pakistan, whose non-proliferation record was tainted with the revelation that its nuclear scientist called A.Q. Khan, he sold the nuclear technologies to countries such as Iran, Libya and North Korea. And China's non-proliferation record too is tainted with allegations that it has helped Pakistan on this slide. And India maintains that rather than evolving the criteria, its performance should be on the basis on which the decisions on its application should be taken. And India is not in a position to immediately sign the nuclear non-proliferation treaty and to gain access to technologies considering its unstable and unpredictable neighborhood. So it is also unlikely to accede to the comprehension test ban treaty that put curbs on further nuclear test. And India's track records in observing the provisions of a non-proliferation treaty and NSG, even though it has not been a member of either of the body, it is very impeccable. So if the NSG was able to grant a waiver to India in 2008 on the basis of its past performance, it should have no objection to admitting the country as a member this time, as well as to balance of its record in adhering to all its commitments over the last 8 years. So what were the India's steps to join NSG? So what did India do to join NSG? In August 2016, during a visit of China's foreign minister called Wang Yi, India and China decided to set up two new dialogue mechanisms. That is, a conversation between India's Joint Secretary Amandeep Gill and Wang Quan, who is a China's chief nuclear negotiator on non-proliferation treaty issue, and which China is using as a block against India. And secondly, a dialogue between Foreign Secretary S. Jaishankar and his Chinese counterpart Zhang Esu on bilateral relations. So the first meeting under Nuclear Supplies Group Specific Dialogue Mechanism was held in New Delhi in September 2016, and China has declared that it has not taken a position on any country specific membership in the category of non-proliferation treaty states. The two sides also agreed to meet for the next round of talks on a mutually convenient date, and China has convened a similar meeting with Pakistan, which is also bidding for NSG membership. And now the Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping, they discussed India's hopes for membership of the Nuclear Suppliers Group at a bilateral summit ahead of the 8th BRICS Summit on 15th October 2016. And since then, India has been constantly engaging and pressing China over NSG membership issue at various levels as well as for us. So this is about the non-proliferation treaty issue between India and China. In the next session, which will be the final session of this Sino-India relationship, so we'll be discussing about the Masood Azhar issue and the 9th BRICS Xiamen Summit and the meeting between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of BRICS Summit. So see you in the next session. Thank you.